Well, hello, everybody. It's Arwen Becker, the host of She Handled It podcast, and I'm so glad that you have joined us today. You know, I was thinking back to this time period. I was 10 years old, and at the time, we lived across the street from my elementary school in Kirkland, Washington. And one of the things that we would often do at that time is we would take our bikes and we would, after school or on the weekends, we would go to the school and we would just ride around in the parking lot. That was just something you did, right? And I can remember back when I was 10, because I had the sweetest bike. It was the banana seat bike. And I know some of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. The big long seat, and mine happened to be Pink Panther banana seat bike. So the Pink Panther's face was the big long seat, and I just totally chuckled because how many parents told their kids, just like mine, you don't ride this with your friends. But yet the banana seat was purpose built for like 2 or 3 kids' butts, I swear, right? That's how big it was. And so I can recall this one time, friends had come over to my house and we were heading across the street to the school to ride our bikes. And my dad came out and he said, "Oh, no, Arwen, you are not riding that bike with roller skates on." And I was like, okay, yeah, I won't do that. I wasn't planning on riding it. And so by the time he went back into the house, I'm like, I'm not going to take the time to take these roller skates off. I'm perfectly capable of riding a bike with roller skates on. And so I headed off with my friends over to the school. And so we're riding around in the parking lot, and one of my friends cuts me off. And of course, I put my feet down to try and stop myself, which causes me to completely fly over the handlebars, face into the concrete, road rash on my face, on my shoulder. It was a mess. And yet I think about that time period and how oftentimes maybe it's our youthful exuberance, maybe it's being a little bit naive. We think that we are going to somehow be the exception to the rule, that we can do what other people can't. And sometimes life gets to this point where it humbles us a little bit. And that is exactly what has happened with the experience of our guest today. And I'm super excited for you all to get to meet and hear her story. And I'm super excited about it too. Rakel Chafir is a high performance coach who helps driven women over 40, give it up to the over 40, release the emotional and physical weight that keeps them from experiencing massive success in their lives. She's the best-selling author of Free Your Body, 7 Steps to the Body You Desire and the Freedom You Deserve. And she's the creator of Fuel, the body resilience training, and it's a high-intensity body and mind practice created in collaboration with an international team of clinical psychologists and neuroscientists. She is a world-leading body confidence expert and guest writer for Thrive Global, Addicted to Success, Best Self Media, CEO Magazine, and many more. Rakel, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I'm so excited.
Thank you. I love your story about the bike. And I remember I had the bike too. I didn't go with the roller skates, but
because you were probably smart enough to realize that's just a plain bad idea.
probably.
Well, yeah, probably. So I know we're going to be getting into your story, but why don't you tell us the song that you brought today for us to add to our Overcomer playlist and why you chose that one?
Okay, so I chose a gorgeous song by Andrea Day, and the song is called Rise Up. So you guys, before I came in, Arwen said, some of our guests like to sing the song, but I will not do that to you. For 2 reasons. One is because it's not an easy song to sing. And 2 is because she is so awesome and she sings it so beautifully and gracefully that I just can't do it to her. But I will read you some of the lyrics because I feel for this podcast and for what women go through and what we face and the challenges we face, they're very, very appropriate. So I'll go on and read it. It starts with this. You're broken down and tired. Hello, how many of us are feeling like that right now? Of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you. So we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. And then she goes into this beautiful hook of rising up, right? So it's really, to me, the way she performs it. And if you do not know the song, please go ahead and check it out and listen it. because it's incredible. She moves from this place of really capturing the vulnerability of feeling broken, and then listening to that inner guidance system that each one of us has, and accessing it and elevating yourself and literally rising up to a more centered, grounded place of freedom, of embodiment, and of truth. So that's a song I picked.
I love that song so much, and that has been on my playlist forever and ever. But yes, I've picked different songs. Like I think I can sing that hook. That is not one of them. I guarantee you. It's such a beautiful song. So any of you, I'd be shocked if everybody has not heard that song, because it's just such a powerful song in so many respects. Well, speaking of powerful stories, I'm really looking forward to hearing yours today. I think it's going to really speak to many women out there. But so why don't you take us back? You were in your 30s. You were pregnant with your second, I believe, at this time, and big and pregnant, so I think late in pregnancy, and some things were going on. So why don't you start us at that point?
So yes, I was doing really well. It was a moment of my life I was doing really well. I was pregnant with my second child. I was doing well in my career. I was teaching in some of the most elite fitness studios in New York and working for corporate clients. And I was teaching fitness on a high level, so body and mind fitness and how that applies to business. So it was the body was a big part of what I did. And I felt very connected to that and excited. And I was getting into this phase of mentoring other instructors or younger instructors and having the respect of some of the people I looked up to for all my life. So I was doing really well. My 8-year-old, he was 4-year-old at the time, 3.5, now he's 8, was in private school in New York. I was pregnant with the second baby. My husband, who's an Italian attorney, was going through the bar exam, so he was studying a lot. And I was teaching up to 22 classes per week, plus workshops and seminars on weekend. And one morning I just woke up. It was just like any other morning, but I woke up, I turned to my husband, and I realized I have no voice. I'm not saying I have a low voice. I'm saying I have no voice. I am attempting to speak to him to say, what time is it? Or is the baby awake? And all I could do is air coming out, no pain, but zero voice. My voice was gone. There was nothing. And it was such a scary, weird experience, because for a moment, like, your brain doesn't register what is happening.
Sure.
Like, okay, I'm imagining this. Now the voice is going to come. Let me just warm up, right? Because I was doing a lot of talking and teaching. So my voice had been going through lower stages. I'm feeling really fatigued, but it was gone. And so I pick up a piece of paper and I tell my husband, no voice. Call the doctor. Let's do something. Let's go see what's happening. So he called and canceled my classes and my work. He let them know what was happening. And then he got the baby to school, and we go to Cedar Sinai, and we immediately see a doctor, and then another doctor, and then another doctor. At the end of that morning, we find out that I have this vocal polyp that has been created by abusing my voice for many, many days, probably years. And then suddenly my voice was gone. And now, being 8 months pregnant, I couldn't take the steroids to calm it down. I couldn't do the surgery because, you're that pregnant, you can't do it and get anesthesia and have a surgery. And so all I could do was be quiet. And I mean, not speak. Now, the point for me not speak wasn't just not communicate, right? It meant not working.
Right.
It meant not talking to my little toddler who's having a baby brother. And it's a very, you have boys.
Sure.
And anybody who has children, having a sibling, it's a very vulnerable experience for a firstborn. Right. And now I can't talk to him anymore. And he's looking at me, he's like, Mommy, why you're not talking to me? Why you're not reading to me anymore? Why you're not speaking to me? He's 3.5 at the time. And my husband explained it to him, but he wasn't really getting it. And it was so bad that if I walked around, I had to write down on a piece of paper if I wanted to order a tea, and show it to the cashier and saying, I need this.
Yeah.
And I noticed in that moment how people are not prepared to respond to any of that. So I felt completely isolated, pregnant, unable to work, and unable to communicate even with my loved ones. And so from there, it was already, pretty bad. But what I soon came to understand is that after 1 week and then 2 weeks and the voice wasn't coming back, is that, hey, I cannot work anymore. And if I cannot work with my husband going to graduate school and my son in private school, it means I cannot pay for my son's private school or the New York rentals. And if you ever lived in New York, it's no joke. And so we decided to move back to Europe. Now, my husband had been living in the United States for only 4 years. For me, it was already 19 years. I felt and still feel more American than Italian. And so moving back to the country of origin felt like returning to the crime scene in so many ways for me, because I created my life away from my family and culture. And going back, although I think, Italy is a gorgeous country, going back for me meant leaving my home, leaving my country, leaving my culture, leaving my job. I cannot even write in Italian anymore. And I can't teach. And there's no studios like the one that they have in New York City, in Florence. How am I going to even provide for my family? What's going to happen to me? So we moved back to Europe, and I'm already in pretty bad shape. And by the time, so I lost my voice, I lost my job because I can no longer work, and I lost my home because I had to leave New York and United States. Even if it was temporary at the moment, that was the idea, it felt like my whole life was over. Then I moved
What were you being told? Sorry to interrupt, but what were you being told by doctors? I mean, were they expecting it was
delicate? No, it was that I had to be quiet for a couple of months, not speak at all, not communicate. Then after having the baby, I would need to get into a cycle of steroids and then have a surgery and then do vocal therapy. So it was a very long journey. We're talking about like a full year to regain a voice. And also I was told, we don't even know what voice is going to come back.
Right.
So you will get some kind of a voice back, but we don't know if it's going to be your voice.
Wow. And so you really had to make these decisions based on the unknown of, you didn't know when your voice was going to come back. You didn't know when it did come back, if it was going to even be a voice that fit into the world that you were used to fitting into, right?
Well, it wasn't even making a decision. I felt like I had no choice to make but do that. And on top of it, there were moments of just being completely broken. Like I have this one moment where I see one of my colleagues saying like, will you be able to sing to your newborn? And just like in that moment, those instances in your life that you can recall with precision, what you were wearing, where you were standing. And I remember looking at her and just feeling the tears coming down my face, because even crying or making a noise felt harsh, out of reach. Really, the idea of being silenced. It was one of the most vulnerable moments of my life. The idea
you had to have felt so helpless.
I felt helpless.
Powerless.
I felt alone. I felt, why the hell is it happening to me? I felt it's unfair. I was doing so well. Why this now? And I felt unfit as a mother, because now I couldn't provide couldn't provide the support I wanted my little guy to have. And I thought, now I cannot provide the support that my newborn will need. And the whole initial connection of hearing the mother's voice is not going to have that. My baby is not going to have that. So I felt like my life went literally in a matter of a month from being a total success of what felt good and happy and fulfilled and excited, to this dark place of feeling hopeless, powerless, why me, and just terrified, really terrified. Because in that moment, I felt like I lost my identity.
Right.
If you're a teacher, if you're a speaker, and you lose your voice, you lose your identity. That's what I did. I presented, I taught, I communicated.
Right. But it was your connection to, I mean, even outside of your vocation, it was your connection to your world, the people who matter to you.
Absolutely.
And not having that.
Yes, absolutely. Was.
And then moving away from your support system that you had built up over all of those years, having been in the States for so long, and then now moving back to, I assume you were moving back to, is it where you grew up?
Yeah, it was where I grew up, and it was close to my family.
Sure.
And I moved away for a reason. Let's put it that way. Like, I love my parents, but they're extremely anxious and extremely critical. And so for me, being in that condition, close to them, made me feel even more powerless, because here I am, almost like an infant, like a child around them, with the mother talking to you, and you cannot answer back. So, but I had no option because that was the reality of what we were going through. So initially I couldn't accept it. I remember having this one session with my therapist where I sat at a Starbucks, and for the first time she did something that she would never do, which is allowing me to have an email session via chat. She said, I never had that in my whole career, but I feel like I need it. And so we are having this email session with her, and I'm realizing while I'm writing this email to her that I have really no option. And something in me in that moment said, clearly you have no options. Clearly at this moment you have no options. Let's honor what you're feeling, but let's go with it. Because the two options you have available is resist what is happening and end up having to do it anyway, or accept what is happening. Do what you can to shift your energy. Do what you can to be present to your child. Do what you can to build another type of connection. Do what you can and see what happens. So that was a moment of hope that I felt, like really an inner guidance, a voice that said, hey, you actually do have a choice.
Yeah.
It's not the choice you want, which is the choice is to make it go away.
Sure.
And then tomorrow, but you do have a choice. And I do believe we always have a choice.
Right.
And how we handle ourselves is really being present to the fact that every second is a privilege. And even going through an experience in a non-ideal way, it's still a privilege.
Sure. And we can reframe it at any point. And that's really what you were being told to do. You can reframe this situation into seeing the beauty in it and the unique characteristics that it put you, that it forced you in, even though it wasn't your choice to do it. You were able to be able to look at it from a different perspective. And I love the fact that you got resourceful too. I mean, you know, back to the fact that your therapist was willing to do an email session, just that alone, that she was willing to do something different and unique that she hadn't done, but that you were resourceful enough to go, I need this. I don't know how it's supposed to happen, but I need you to be able to help me sort through these feelings that I have. And if I have to do that via typing, I'm going to get the help that I know that I need. And I think a lot of people would just hit up against that wall and say, well, I can't do it the traditional way. And I love the fact that you're resourceful about it too. That's important.
It's so important to express what we need and to ask for support. You know, I was leading a group coaching session the other day, and this one woman told me, you know, we got to the end of the session and I asked several times, who wants to speak next? Who needs to speak next? And they were timid into going after. So by the time the whole session was over, this woman felt really bad that she didn't get to speak. There were actually 2 or 3 of them. And so she came up to me and she said, I'm really sad that I didn't get to speak. I'm like, you had an opportunity. I challenge you next time to see if there's even if I don't say who wants to speak next, to say, I really need to speak.
Yeah.
Today, I really need to speak. And we have this idea, we can't let what others think of us or our fear of how others will react to become more important than what we know needs to come out.
Yeah.
And that's something that women tend to do all the time.
Absolutely.
Let me just handle it on my own.
Yep.
Right.
Or put myself second, just always be secondary. Oh,
Wow.
my feelings, all these other people matter. And that's what women are really good at, helping advocate for other people, helping to support other people. But when it comes to self-support and saying, at this moment, I need something, I need support, I need to be able to get this off my chest, I need to make my feelings known, whatever that might be. And being willing to enter into that uncomfortable space and say, I need to put a hand up and go, I need help right now. And I need to talk about this at the very least. And however it's received doesn't negate the feelings that you have at that moment, being able to get it out. That's why therapy is so vital for all of us. I mean, really, to be able to have a skilled person. And I think I just want to say that too. You know, it's not about just finding some person to be able to talk to. It's somebody that you can trust, that's skillful, that has your best interest at heart, that's not going to make the problem worse or share your problem with other people.
Totally. No, that's very, very important. I also want to add something, because I think that we as women, culturally, we give value to this figure of the one that takes care of everybody and put herself last. Right. There is a moral value that we give to that. And in a way, it's not that, I'll go back to the story, but this really came out while you were talking. But in a way, if we are always the one giving, right? If we are the one always providing, there is a sense of control in that. It takes a lot of vulnerability to pull out of that control and be there to receive it. It's almost like if you and I are friends, right? And we go out and I say, oh, well, let me pay. Oh, no, let me know what's going on with you. Or let me make sure that you are healthy and you feel safe. And how can I help you today? Oh, and what's going on with this other thing in your life? Subconsciously, I would feel that if our friendship would end, you'd be the one losing, because I was the one giving you everything, right? But instead, if I place myself in this vulnerability spot and allow you to support me, then I might need you more. And I think there's something that's so key for women. We are afraid of needing someone because we are afraid that when we do, then they won't show up. And we do not want to live that disappointment again. So it's almost like this old trauma of being disappointed at some point in our lives, and we all have been, shows up again and again and again every time that we need help, and we suffocate that need because we don't want to face maybe not getting what we need.
Hurt, and so we just potentially getting hurt. I always talk about the pendulum. I don't remember who I had heard speak about it, but that the pendulum, it swings as far one way as it does another. And, when you really want to be in a place of real deep, lasting, committed love, whether that be with a spouse, whether that be with friends, when you want to have that real deep, wonderful sense of, oh my gosh, I have somebody I can really rely on, you have to be willing to let the pendulum swing to the other space of being what you said, vulnerable, being open to being hurt. It's unfortunate, but it is how those things work. If you want a very small life that has no hurt in it, or very little, you're going to have very little of that deep, true, lasting connectedness with the people that you want to have it with. And there are going to be people who are going to hurt you, and you're eventually going to have to push, you're going to have to push them out of that area and not give them that sacred space of yours. But I think that's really important, that we are open to the potential and the likelihood, really, of being hurt, because that's what it is to be vulnerable and exposed, but that's what it is to really be able to feel richly.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So you guys moved back to Florence.
We moved back to Florence. I had the little guy, my second baby, who is now 3.5, almost 4. And the voice is slowly starting to come back. So at this point, I can speak, but very softly, which I'm already super happy about because it allows me to communicate. But right as soon as I'm starting to recover, with my voice or feeling better, I start getting this deep abdominal pain. And to cut the story short, I find out I have this hernia in my umbilical area. That it's a choked hernia. It means the tissue around your belly button are dying. There's no blood supply. And so I had this terrible surgery that was supposed to be not terrible, but ended up being terrible because my body completely shuts down and has an allergic reaction. And I wake up in so much physical pain that I just think, not another thing, right? I lost my voice, I lost my job, I lost my home, and now I'm losing my body, my core, the core of who I am. I was literally ripped apart in every possible way. And the pain was so severe. And I had to put some internal stitches, and I had to lay down on the sofa with my legs up so that I could maintain a 90-degree position to not flex the muscle. So even sneezing or coughing or doing anything like that felt like somebody was ripping me apart. And I couldn't take any medication because I had an allergic reaction and didn't know to what.
Oh, no.
So now I'm going through this insane pain. And I'm going through the next phase of what I was doing that day in New York, which was stop asking why it's happening and understanding that the only way to go through it was to surrender to whatever is happening must be happening for a reason, and in that moment, I could clearly see how my life had always been about controlling the body, helping women, controlling the body, controlling my career, controlling where, my kid gets to go to school, controlling how my kids feel, controlling how my husband feel, controlling that I look the part, controlling that I sound smart, controlling how my clients felt after working with me, controlling the results. It was all about that. And it gave me this relief, this illusion that by doing that, I was somehow immune to dealing with the internal turmoil and conflict that existed beneath me.
Yeah.
And that in reality, all that pretty put together human was very broken and needed a lot of healing. And so the moment I surrendered to that pain, and it happened really randomly because I wasn't a big into meditation. I was very into active, high intensity, marathon, not meditation. But the only way to control the abdominal pain was to breathe smoothly, to control the breath. And so I found myself into these days of meditation. And in that moment, during that meditation, I heard an instinct, an inner guidance, what people probably call a download, that says, you have a choice. You have a choice. You can choose yourself, or you can choose to keep fighting and resisting and trying to rehab yourself to then go back to control it.
Right.
And at the beginning, I didn't know what choosing yourself meant. But soon enough, I learned that choosing yourself meant choosing the part of me that always was and always will be, the part of me that existed beyond that moment. It's like if I told you the part of you that existed when you were a little girl in that bike and that you wanted to explore the things, the part of you that existed beyond your address and your age and your profession, the self that goes beyond all the attachment that I needed to control, the self that wanted to be seen and held and experienced, the self that wanted to have a voice, so she had to shut up the other one that was taking the lead.
Yeah.
The self wanted to do more than just help women look good. The self was determined to help female leaders heal their body image so they could show up fully and embody the truth of who they are. That's the self that was coming up in that moment for me.
Wow. My coach, business coach, talks about the area of genius, and that's what I'm visualizing that when you're talking about it. She said, she's talking to me specifically. She's like, you have this area which bumps up right to that, where it's really the bleeding edge of your comfort zone. And then you you get out of that, and that's the area of
The zone
genius
of
that she
genius.
talks
Yeah.
about. But then you're like, I'm too scared, and I'm going to come back into this place
Yeah.
where I feel like I can control it, because that is the unknown. But yet, if there is a place to feel more alive when you are in that area where you're like, I can't control all of the pieces of my circumstance, because oh my gosh, Rakel, I so relate to everything that you're saying, because I have tried to do that. I always talked about, I thought kind of to this point where I was like my own personal savior, where I thought out of time, effort, energy, and just sheer drive, I could control everything, until, just like you, I had that moment where it was all the things that I knew to be true, all the things I believed in, were all stripped away. And then you're left with yourself going,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? This was not how it was supposed to be. And that's where there's so much freedom, when you realize, first of all, you don't have to control it all. It's a really nice feeling when you recognize that I always say that I'm not that important to have to control it all. It's not my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I still like to have my things in order, but you can't control everything. And it's a nice feeling of relief when you kind of get to that space where you realize that.
Yeah, it's amazing that the thing that we fear the most, right? When it happens, it just, relief is there. There's almost this very soft,
Yeah.
raw, real experience that goes beyond, right? It's the same experience. The only time I could compare it to is, when you have a new baby and you smell the baby beneath the neck, and there's a smell of heaven, or where you're looking at a sunset that it's too beautiful to describe,
Yeah.
and that you have this moment of going beyond you.
Yep.
And for a moment, you forget that you're this person, and you just become the everything. That for me, when I lost everything, I suddenly felt connected to everything.
Wow.
It was like, I am everything. I don't need to be this, because I am everything. And it wasn't a very logic as I'm describing it. It was more of a sensory experience. But what I came out of that process, when I began to feel better, I knew I could not go back to that. And I didn't want to go back to that. And in a way, it's changed me, and it changed my career as well, because I came out of that meltdown and breakdown saying, I have no interest in teaching in elite fitness studio and telling women they should push harder. I have no interest in that. I want to find out what's going on in the brain. I want to find out how we can release the pressure and obtain even better results. I don't want to help women get their body back after baby. I want them to get a body that's even better than what they ever had, even if they are 40 or 50, because who says that they can't?
Right.
It was like all the things that were part of this very segmented, fixed idea, what I wanted my life to be, were now flowing.
Wow.
There was a lot more feminine energy that I never even knew it existed. And then I began to see, how when we do that in our body, when we allow that freedom in our body, how the results we can get, how the weight, the emotional weight that we carry on ourselves, that sometimes materialize in extra weight in our body, can be released rather than forced out. I mean, my whole perspective, my whole system, my desires of what I wanted to do completely changed. Completely changed. It changed the raw material of who I am.
Wow, that is so powerful. Oh my gosh, that is so powerful, because it's not just about having an amazing body. Amazing body is great and everything, but if you have an amazing body and yet you're miserable between your two ears, and you don't get to enjoy the life that you have in front of you, what is the point of it all?
Oh yeah.
And to be well-rounded that way, that is so brilliant.
Yeah. It's like, it's almost, to have the best body, you need to know you're more than the body, right? And then allow the body, or whatever it is that you want. And this is the same thing that I do in the business coaching or in the body. It's like, you can do anything that you want. You can have that fit body. You can build that 7-figure business, but it needs to become the byproduct of who you choose to be, not the condition to feel good enough, right? So yes, go get that amazing body. Look the best you can, but not because you need to in order to feel good enough. You
Right.
start with feeling good enough because and really embodying that sense of worth. And then you allow yourself to be drawn to what's really aligned with that vision so that those results become inevitable. That's the shift of that experience for me.
Wow, that is such a beautiful thing. I think just when you said being connected to everything, when you were kind of disconnected
Yeah.
from the things that you had really put your trust and belief in and your value in were all ripped away kind of all at the same time. And then all of a sudden now feeling connected to everything, and it just had the richness of living, now being able to have those things restored, your voice restored and your body restored, and getting those pieces back, but yet still being able to hang on to what you've learned throughout that process. It's such a beautiful word picture of so many pieces and so many things you said. I can't wait to go back and listen to the show, because it's just, there's so much wisdom and value in what you've said. And the truth is, you had to go through a really, really hard time and a lot of probably very dark moments, dark nights, and extended time period, not just a couple of weeks or something like that, a really extended time period of all the things that you thought were most important being taken away for a while. And yet the beauty that came after that, that is the nature of going through really hard things and choosing to still reframe it and overcome it. And you've done it in such a beautiful, beautiful way. Oh my gosh. And you've articulated it in such a beautiful way. So when you look back at, these last number of years, what would you say are those top 3 things that you've taken away from this experience?
So the top 3 things that I've taken away from this experience that I want to share with the woman who's listening right now, whether she's like washing her dishes or fixing her clothes or putting together the things for their business, I wanted to share with her, because it's not just about my experience. It's something that I believe and I am determined to communicate and share with every woman out there who's looking for empowerment and freedom, is that we get to come first. We, the woman, right, get to come before the very outcome we desire. So whatever it is that you desire, those outcomes get to become the natural byproduct of you, not the condition to feeling good enough. This is true for the body. This is true for the business. This is true for the relationship, for the man in your life, the woman in your life, the children. You need to come first.
Yeah.
Right. So that's definitely the number one. The second one, that generally speaking is not about forcing what we want, but it's about allowing what we want. So it's not about losing, it's about releasing. It's not about achieving, but putting ourselves in that position and in that consistent action, consistent aligned action that allows us to get there. Because if we focus so much on the actual achievement, on the goal, we're also stuck in a very, very small dimension. Like I would have never known what was possible for me if I'd remained in New York and this never happened to me. Yeah. We need sometimes to have that much of a break in our mentality and in our reality to understand that there is so much more available. So whatever it is that you're going through right now, there's so much more available. And what would happen if you were open to the idea of having more available than the option that you're now seeing or thinking about? This is definitely something that was big. And the last one, I had so many. I had to write them down, the 3 ones, when you asked me, because there's so many takeaways. I'm like, oh my God, what should I share? Oh yeah, the third one is that being present and responsible in your life doesn't mean being controlling of your life. Being present and responsible, showing up in your responsibility, showing up, taking space, fully owning it, doesn't mean needing to control it. Because for me, that was the same thing, right? So confidence is not so much being assertive or being sexy or being dominating. Confidence is the ability to show up in your truth, to tell your story without allowing those fears, those imposition, those limiting beliefs to prevent you from speaking up and showing up in who you are. So those are the 3 biggest getaways.
Oh, Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I've taken all of them to heart. There's no doubt about it. And I'm glad you picked those three because they definitely speak to me. And I know they speak to many, many women out there too. All right. So the rapid fire 3 questions. And actually, before I want to get to this, I want to ask you one other quick question.
Cool.
Just because you talk a lot about your clients and about women, and what do you think personally what does it look like when women really support one another? When women are supporting women, what does that look like to you?
To me, it looks like magic. To me, it looks like no limitation to what can be achieved. To me, it looks like freedom, true power, and infinite possibility. When women come together, when we drop the lie of comparison and we recognize that the other woman in front of us is our friend, our sister, our supporter, our cheerleader, our teacher, our student, our loved one, our mirror, we access the freedom of tapping into who we are as women, which is often hidden by these layers of measuring your worth against her. Right. So if I'm here and I become present, you're a gorgeous woman, and I know you're extremely successful, and I become present to the little voice, the little background noise that says, oh, but she's so beautiful, but she's so this, and she's got it could go on and on, right? And what I would be missing is your beauty. I would be missing your heart. I will be missing your mission to bring value to women and to let them know they're empowered to invest and to experience wealth and freedom. I will be missing you.
Right.
So women coming together means not missing the freaking point.
Yeah.
Right? Not missing. It's like the truth and the end of all. Everything and nothing coming into one.
Yeah.
Magic.
And the power that comes from being in that space where the comparison is not the focal point, where it's, like you said, the student and the teacher, because all of us have things to learn. All of us have things that we can give as gifts to other people, that they look at us and go, gosh, I can't believe you can do that. And so not getting into this comparison space and being able to fully show up as yourself. I just knew you would have a beautiful answer to that. I didn't know it would be that beautiful. That was really, really remarkable.
No, I mean, I just really think when we drop there's a lot of things that lead us to comparison, which is the looks or the achievement. And when we're trying to take that out, and I suggest that, we do that more and experience the soul and experience the being, it's such a beautiful experience. Like, I'm in love with women.
Yeah, agreed. That's beautiful. All right. So the last 3 questions.
Go.
Rapid fire. We've got the best piece of financial wisdom you've been given.
Okay. Check your body before making a financial decision. So I'm not saying just follow your intuition blindly, not saying that, but check your body, because sometimes your body will tell you, oh, that's scary, but it feels aligned, right? Because I'm not into this old prophecy of do what feels good. You can't just do what feels good. Sometimes things are the right thing, but they're not super easy, right?
Right.
So check your body and really notice your reaction and learn from that. Use it as an internal compass to make decision in your business.
That's
and
good.
Your finances.
Really good piece of advice. So what about a favorite book and why?
Okay, so my new favorite book is Soulbatical by my friend Shelley Paxton. And I should have picked my book, but I picked hers.
Well, we'll still have yours in the show notes.
Because everybody needs to read it. It's so fun. She's so fun. She used to be the head of Harley Davidson, and she just took some time off, and she's just decided to become this soul rebel and express herself and create a movement of rebel souls that express who they truly are in life. And it's just both extremely enjoyable and fun and filled with gems that you can bring back home. So that's my
perfect.
suggestion.
I'm going to definitely download that one immediately. That sounds awesome. And then a favorite quote.
Okay. The favorite quote Doubts kills more dreams than failure ever will, by Susie Kassem. Wow, I love that. The doubts kills more dreams than failure ever will. And it's the truth.
Yep. That is the truth, no doubt about it. So how can we all get a hold of you? Tell us all the good details about you. Where can we find you? Anything that you want us to pick up?
Yes. Okay, guys. So you can find me on rakelchafir.com. Is www.rakel, RakelChafir.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Rakel Chafir. And you can just send me a DM. Let's bring social back to social media. Send me a DM. I'm a real human. I will respond. And I'm happy to send you a free gift on anything that you are looking for, whether it's business or embodiment. I have a ton of free gifts like everybody on the internet, and I'm happy to give it to you.
Love it. And please take up her on this offer, because Rakel, actually, you and I were talking about this. I just want to make this point too. We were talking about your photos, and I'm telling you, so when you and I got introduced, of course I had to go look you up, and I was so encouraged and I so admired your pictures, because not only were they vibrant in color, but vibrant in the woman that you are and what is portrayed. And it's very much the woman I'm sitting in front of, which I love that, because there's a lot of lack of authenticity on the internet, and that's not what I have with you. But just tell our listeners, you know, you and I were talking about how pictures and you know, doing social media that way was not your thing, but now, I mean, it's amazing looking at what you're building for your brand, and they're just beautiful. They're stunning.
It's actually one of the things that I love to do more with women, and I have slowed down doing that because of COVID and, you know, the inability of doing a lot of VIP events and events in person. But I used to have body image issues, and my picture, although I looked very good and fit, were very static, very rigid. Like my face always looked forced. And then I began to think of space and photograph as making shapes, making movement, experiencing emotion. So one of the things, which I'm happy to give it to you as a suggestion, it's one of the 3 things that I teach women how to take those kind of photographs that express a message without needing to write the caption, is to get out of the way, out of the way and take the picture, let the picture be about your message, your purpose, what you want to express, and not about you. So the best way to make an authentic you is to take the you out, the you that wants to look good, the you that's concerned to say, oh my God, do I look young enough? Do I look fit enough? Is this outfit right? So when you pull that out and you shut her up and you say, okay, what's the message? So in this picture, I want to tell women, you could do this. So give me a picture, you could do this, feel that, embody that message and see what comes out, right? And so the empowerment that message bring through the body, words and body and movement, and the negative space around us that we occupy becomes that one thing that gets very, very powerful. So for all those of you who are struggling with taking photographs, use that next time. Think about it. Think about your brand. What is the message of your brand? What is the message of your book? What is the message, I don't know, the story you want to tell?
Sure.
And bring that to life. And that allows for the camera to capture that. And you become an instrument of that message, not the little star who needs to look cute that gives the static little portrait, you know? Nothing wrong with that. I don't know how to take that. If you tell me, I have to get out of the way and think about what I want to communicate. And then that I'll get. And since I've done that with women, I have clients that we have been doing photo shoots where they used to get 5, 10 good pictures, and they get 85 good pictures. And I want this one and this one and this one and this one, because the moment we step out of the way and we're just in our truth, it's like it's liberated, and that shows up, you know, we glow with that. So I love that. And yes, come and check out the pictures. Now I'm getting into reels. And
I love it.
Well, story.
You have been such a beautiful wealth of knowledge, and I'm so grateful to have met you. I'm so grateful that you have sown into my life today and every woman out here listening to you, because what you have what you are creating in your life, of your legacy, and being able to share that so generously just really, really, truly blessed my life today. So I thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. I loved every second.
Good. Well, I will look forward to hopefully running to you sometime in Europe when I
Yeah,
find myself
who
there
knows?
sooner than later. All right, my dear. Well, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, babe. Thank
All right.